Welcome to today's episode. If you're interested in the often volatile and unpredictable world of meme coins, then stay tuned. Our guest today is Boots, a recognized figure in the crypto space known for navigating the highs and lows of meme coin investing. If you want to gain insights into meme coin strategies and market trends, this episode is for you. Meet Boots, a savvy investor renowned for his unique approach to meme coins. He combines a deep understanding of market trends with a humorous yet insightful perspective, making complex topics accessible and engaging. So join us as we delve into Boots' journey, his unique strategies for identifying and capitalizing on the next big meme coin, and the lessons he has learned along the way. And remember, anything that's said on this podcast is not financial advice. Stay tuned.
Hi everyone. So today we are talking the most popular narrative at the moment, right? This time around in the crypto space. So it's about the meme culture. What's happening in the tokens, and we had a few different what we call narratives before, and this time we believe it's the meme narrative. And to break it down and then put back together, we have invited Boots. And Boots, you have been in the space for a while, and I really got to, we got to really got to know you since last year with the whole Aussie follow Aussie. That's when I really crossed paths with you. And since then, you have been really cool, and I've been following you and as Blockstars as well. So you are knee deep in this space. So, I can't wait to get into it and get into it. I think you're going to love this one, Charlie. Crypto bros, and you got like good meme coin trade. So on that note, Boots, I'm going to pass the mic to you to give a little bit intro about who you are and how do you start in this space, and let's get into the meaty stuff afterwards.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks for having me here, guys. I'm looking forward to chatting today about this stuff because I live and breathe it, and it's cool to have these kind of conversations. But yeah, so for reference, I think, I'm not sure a lot of people know, but so I've been in this space. Look, I've been involved in crypto for like a long time, but passively involved, right? So I think I started buying crypto on exchange back in like 2015, 16, but very, like, we're talking small amounts. And even back in the days of just knowing about Bitcoin and reading about Bitcoin, especially with the Silk Road stuff, like on the early days and that kind of thing, never really got into it like massively, but was always interested in the tech and things like that. I was a former, like I used to be in academia, and I wrote a paper on like blockchain for like the use of like tracking I'm trying to find the word, fraud or what in terms of in terms of aid, right? Like using blockchain technology to track the supply chain of the distribution of aid and things like that. It's not like a huge paper, but like, so I've been always like looking at, but I was more looking at it from the lens of like the tech perspective, as opposed to as a financial, industry, et cetera, right? Because I was never involved in that kind of stuff. And then in 2020, especially at the end of 2020, I started to I was watching a lot of stuff on YouTube, and I watched a YouTube video by, I think it was the guy who started Twitch, Justin Khan. I'm not sure if that's his name, but it sounds like it is. And he was talking about how he was selling YouTube videos as an NFT. And I thought, okay, that's pretty interesting. Like, let me find out what an NFT is. So I started doing a bit more research, and I was like looking on YouTube a bit more. And then I saw a video by Rhett, Mankind, the artist, the Australian artist, and he was talking about what NFTs were. So like basically just through that little trail, I got onboarded into knowing about this thing called an NFT. And then I went on Nifty Gateway and started like watching some of the auctions there with their live art going and seeing the huge prices that were going, and I was like, well, this is a crazy industry. And then I started to buy stuff and trade stuff and kind of just got sucked in from that point. So started off in kind of the NFT space, like, again, like really late 2020, early 2021, kind of like rode that wave up.
Early.
Yeah. Well, I mean, early, it sounds like it's a long time, but like really, some people have been involved in the industry for ages, but like, so like probably 4 years, and came up through NFTs and I worked a lot in like a marketing capacity and a project management capacity in the NFT space. You know, helping people like go to market with their projects and like project managing kind of like bigger projects as well in the NFT space. I ran a launch division with West Coast NFT, which is one of the original dev studios.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So I was very fortunate to be involved with them for you know, around 2 years. And then I kind of like just went through the motions and I had basically a small kind of like I wouldn't call it an agency, but like a launch service to help like NFT projects go to market and stuff, and running that for a while as well. But I kind of shut all that down in the start of 2023 because the industry was kind of dead. And also I was really sick of NFTs. Like it was just, you know, we had 2 years of kind of up only, and then, you know, there was a lot of down only. And then at the end of 2022, I was kind of like, I'm over NFTs. Like, let's move on and like, let's actually focus on crypto, because I feel like I'm one of the people that was onboarded to crypto from NFTs, right? So
yes,
from 2023, 2023, like to now, I started to go, okay, I'm just going to like throw myself in the weeds and just absorb all of the information about crypto, specifically like, you know, DeFi and like everything to do with that and how that all works. And, you know, getting involved in like helping projects like, you know, run socials and like working out like how to run community in Telegram for kind of like a lot of tokens and things like that, learning out, you know, what all these protocols and dApps do and stuff. So I really spent 12 months kind of like getting in the weeds of the tech, getting in the weeds of like the broader crypto offering, like, you know, looking at every single coin on like, all these major chains, like, okay, how do I bridge there? Like, how do I perform function XYZ? Okay, like, how do I, you know, lend here? How do I earn yield here? And just doing that for 12 months to the point where when the bull market kicked off, like, I was like, all right, cool.
Man, you are snake.
Yeah. It's a bull market focused around crypto, right? And I'm like, good, all right, I'm ready. And kind of just got into it and just like hit the ground running from there. But I think like there's a lot of people from the same period of time that I kind of entered the industry with, the ones that were left, a lot of them didn't, they were onboarded into the industry for NFTs specifically. And when the narrative changed around crypto, back to crypto specifically in DeFi, they weren't interested, number one, or they didn't understand it. And there was a skill gap issue for them. And they've almost tried to address it too late. And I think they're kind of like phased out of the industry. I think that if you look at the market now, it's extremely different as to what it was even at the start of 2023. There's a whole new crop of influencers and people kind of like shaping the narrative of the timeline and stuff. And, you know, if you look at things like Ansem, you know, being the main character in crypto right now, whereas like 6 months ago, most people didn't even know who he was.
No, that's right.
Yeah. So I think we've come a long way. This is a long roundabout way of me saying was onboarded through NFTs, then slowly started to like learn about crypto over the last couple of years, but really specifically since the start of 2023 to the point where we're at now where, you know, I'm lucky to be able to be like advising for Azura protocol and Stargaze Zone. You know, Stargaze Zone is an NFT chain specifically.
Yep.
I advise them mostly on marketing, and Azura is kind of a GambleFi layer, which I advise them on kind of KOL management. And yeah, to be trading and I still work in the space. I still do a lot of GTMs for tokens when needed. In terms of advisory, like I don't actually execute any of their strategy, just give them advice on like how, like who they could speak to, etc.
Yeah.
But I've moved away from doing launches because they're extremely tiring. And
it could be, right? It's like, because it's like 24/7. There's no, I don't know, is it 24/7 or is it like 25/8? You know? You can't do enough, isn't it? It's not like, okay, I think we had done enough. It's never like that, right? The launch has to pretty much go on and on and on, right?
Yeah, it's very like a high touch, kind of like a lot of effort into these in terms of hours spent invested in doing these. Like if someone's launching them and I'm advising them, or like maybe I'm helping them just, you know, manage marketing content or just helping them get connected to the right people to kind of like funnel everything through so that they can, you know, build hype around what they're doing. Like it's more like you have to be available kind of 24/7 because there's always stuff and there's always problems. And like, it's not just like clock in 9 to 5 and do work.
No.
I mean, that does exist in some elements of crypto, but in the trenches, as I call it, like it's 24/7, and especially for us being based in the Southern Hemisphere, our time zone doesn't align with the rest of the world. So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I check my phone, and I have hundreds of messages, right? And then just before I go to bed, I have hundreds of messages, because that's the 2 peak times. But in the middle of the day, no one is talking to me. It's dead. So.
Yeah. Okay, now I know when to contact you. Otherwise, you're going to hundreds of messages. My mind get lost. Yeah.
Well, I took 12 hours off, like on the weekend, and then I woke up and I had 5,000 messages. So you can.
Oh my God.
We'll leave it at that. Yeah.
That's just crazy, man. So before we get into it, thank you. That's great. You know, it shows like how did you get to where you are today? And I think a lot of people are like, oh, we've only been in this narrative for like maybe a year or year and a half, right? In this meme narrative, but it's a lot more, because it's like I think the tech is constantly evolving. Whatever that, and I mean, like, I'm still trying to get my head around. Probably you can explain this one a little bit, but it's not today's subject, which is like, you know, the liquid staking, like, you know, how do you, you know, just restaking and liquid staking and all that narrative, like, you know, that a lot of people in crypto are a lot more financially ahead than people who are in finance, or we still put money in our bank, or we still invest, you know, in shares or whatever. But still, we don't really understand how the monetary system works, right? We just like, oh, we just put our super or pension or shares, we just put it there, but we don't really understand the cogs, how the cogs works in the real, you know, the Web2 financial TradFi, isn't it? Oh, you print more money.
On a funny moment, there was a video recently of I think it was like head of the Federal Reserve was on 60 Minutes, and they're like, so how does this work? And he's like, he didn't even know how it worked, and he was in charge.
You know? So, but when it comes to crypto, like the Degens, I believe they understand exactly how how you can bring value in the crypto space, right? And, you know, creating money, you know, like we said, like, okay, they're going to print money, but when we had this, I just want to talk about what is the meaning behind meme? When you say, oh, it's a meme coin, what is the definition of a meme coin? How does it, you know, what is that? You know, we just throw that word around, you know, some sort of culture comes into it, something like that, right? When I saw Pepe, something like, oh my God, this has like long term, you know, because it's like Pepe is like so OG when it comes to memes, right? And the only way I knew Pepe is like from 4chan, and it's a bit of a negative connotation. So when I bought my Pepe, it's like, oh, am I just, you know, supporting a different narrative here? And then the culture was different, and like, oh, you know what, it's gonna go up, you know, I just jump into it. So,
and then on that one, as I had no idea about the negativity around the 4chan and the Pepe meme, I just knew there was a lot of Pepe memes in crypto, like Bitcoin mainly, like the Pepe memes people share on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then you told me about that backstory in that documentary on it. I'm like, holy shit, I never knew any of that.
So, Boots, can you please tell us, like, what is a meme, and what makes a token a meme coin from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and it's an interesting question. Because I would define a meme coin as a token that has no inherent value, and makes no attempt at having inherent value, right? So it's not like the separation between like Mog or Pepe and like a token like Dimension, which is, you know, supposedly the native token of the Dimension blockchain, which is doing weird stuff with blob space and roll dApps and all this kind of stuff, and TIA and, you know, those are obviously like, that's what I call the vaporware tokens, right? Which is another kind of meme in and of itself. But like a meme should just basically be, okay, a token centered around like something that is, you know, probably funny, or at least it makes you laugh, and then building kind of like a cult following around that, right? Now that varies from coin to coin. Some coins have a really strong community and you know, culture, right? And other coins are very light on that, right? So I almost think there's kind of like tiers of meme coin where it's like there's, just a capital meme coin, and then there's a culture coin, which is like a capital C culture coin, right? I would say that like MOG is a culture coin, and that has a very strong kind of like UGC movement built around it, with a lot of people pushing it. It wasn't initially kind of like bought by whales, but people who bought it became whales, and kind of like they're able to like shape some of the narrative in crypto through that. So like they've built a strong community and culture, obviously centered around the coin itself. And then you've got other memes like, I guess we could talk about the Iggy Azalea kind of like mother token. And it's like, yeah, that the price has gone up on that, and a lot of people have made a lot of money on that, because of market makers, etc. But I wouldn't say that there's a culture around that token, right? And again, a lot of this has to do with time horizons, like how long has it been in the market, because you can't really coalesce around, forming strong interest in something apart from price go up if it's brand new. And then a lot of it has to do with like how long are the founders kind of like, how much work are they putting in? Like how long have they been delivering for? Like what's the content on Twitter look like and stuff like that? And a lot of these things are where the line in the sand kind of gets drawn. But I think, for the broad answer is a token that doesn't promise anything is a meme coin.
Are you looking to integrate your business systems with cutting-edge AI technology? Our expert team is here to help you use the power of AI to innovate, streamline, and enhance your current business operations. Contact us today at 1-800-870-200 or visit blockstars.com.au.
Yeah.
And on that one, Boots, with the meme coins, what do you look for in like the tokenomics like side of thing? Do you really look into the tokenomics, or do you just look at the Twitter algorithm going off and who's buying and talking about it? Is there a good one out there that you think have done very well with their tokenomics and their culture?
Yeah, so if a coin has anything, if their token does anything, then I don't buy it, right? Because I don't want to buy a coin that promises any form of utility. So anytime they mention utility, I'll just sell.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at, meme coins that are absolute memes that don't promise to do anything. But some of the stuff I will look at is I'll look at like, okay, like what is the holder distribution on this? Like, is anybody holding, like more than 2%? Like, and, you could get into this and be like, the people are always holding more than 2% just across multiple wallets and things like that. But is it glaringly obvious that someone's holding more than 2%? Because that's a risk, because they could dump it. What are the socials like? Like, are they actually consistently putting out content? Like, is the Telegram active? I wouldn't look at what people are saying on Twitter as a signal to buy. I do look at that as a signal to sell. Because, when the average person in the industry is talking about the thing, like you've been in the thing too long, right? But the way that I go about it is like, I have like a lot of, several group chats that are like really high value. And if the thing is mentioned in like, at least 50% of those group chats, like I'm like, okay, this is something to invest in. And I'll put money into it, and then I'll research later. Because I think there's a real time horizon risk here of like, going, okay, let me go and research this thing, and you research it, especially on Solana, and then you come back and the coin that was at 1 million is at 10 million. And, so you have to turn your brain off a lot for this kind of stuff and go full left curve and just lean into it and go, okay, this has been mentioned by people that are smarter than me. I think this meme is kind of funny, or at least has legs. Like, let me just put some money into it now and go and learn all the other answers. Like, okay, holder distribution, is Twitter working, is Telegram going well, etc. And then do your like 10 minutes of research or whatever it is, and then come back and be like, okay, I feel comfortable holding this from this point, and keep holding, or go, this is not stacking up, and selling. And you have to be comfortable with the loss that you take from that. But again, if you fundamentally think something is going up, right, even just like a gut intuition sometimes can tell you, like it's just far better to buy and research than to kind of research and buy it, right? Unless you're talking about coming at this from a perspective of like, okay, I want to invest some money and I'm looking at coins over 100 million market cap. It's like, okay, at that point, like they're not just going to go to $1 billion in a minute, right? You can actually go and research and form a thesis.
So that's what I was doing something wrong. I was researching first. By the time I get back, like, oh, my God, mother is just keep on just climbing and climbing. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm too late. And I'm like, next 2 hours, 3 hours later, or the weekend, I'm like, oh my God, it's gone up again by that, just crazy.
Yeah, the only research you want to know is you've got the correct contract really, and making sure you're buying the correct contract.
Yeah, because like even with I think GameStop, they had two like tokens like GME, and there's another one, something else with the GameStop, and a lot of people bought the other one, which was like not really happening, you know what I mean? And it's just like a 1 letter difference in the ticker, and it's like so easy to end up in the wrong. You tell a story similar to that, isn't it? Last time you said like, oh, someone just bought the wrong version of the same token
A while ago,
very long time ago. Is it Ethereum or something? I don't know.
No, there was something else. But yeah, they got on the wrong one. As the hype's going, first release, get it,
Jumping and yeah. And by the way, just want to put it out there, nothing of this is like financial advice.
I do not have financial advisory license.
No, we just yeah.
We just stated he loses money.
I lose my money, and this is mainly for education only. So pretty much, what we are saying is like, okay, this is how we individually are providing advice, and same with your boots. Just want to put it out there. So what we are doing, we are talking about the meme culture and how things are working, and what we see as individuals in the space.
Yeah,
as education. So,
on that one, Boots, though, is sort of, I know you spoke about your time horizons as people are talking about it on Twitter. That's normally the sell signal. But do you implement like something that we call here is the little old lady method, where Da Vinci 125 or something, I think it is. He's the OG sort of like Bitcoiner, but he's got the video from 2011 saying just buy $1 of Bitcoin back when it was like $10.
Seeing his one,
yeah, he's a good guy. But he taught me the little old lady method, saying, and it actually works really well in crypto in my perspective over the years, is when you buy something and it doubles in price, you take out your initial investment and then find the next one, and you've sort of just got house money sitting there that, I've had meme coins, like the Mong meme coin, go up to 50 grand and then come back down to $20. So, but it didn't cost me nothing. I could have taken more profits, but it was, it's a good trading strategy. What do you think about that, or what's your strategies?
Yeah, I don't take out initials. It depends though on what chain I'm trading, right? Because I think that in the past I used to be like, okay, this coin has gone 2x, let me just clip out the initials here and see how it goes. But like, I feel like you end up at some point, if it's a 2 or 3x, cashing out, sometimes 25% of your stack just to cash out those initials. And it's like, I just think if you have like, if you believe that you made the right decision, not selling is at the start and taking out those initials is the way to go, right? Now, yeah. You should absolutely clip profit on the way up, especially on things that are illiquid, right? Because not all tokens have, these liquidity pools like, on Solana and Base and Ethereum. Like if we're talking about trading runes, right? Like the strategy, this is basically like listing NFTs to sell. So on that, you have to sell into volume, into hype. And so you can't really, you can't just sit back and go, I'm going to dump my bag all in one go, because there's no ability to do that. You have to list and list and list. And so that requires you to list and sell on the way up, right? Well, that's what I do anyway, right? So yeah, I would say I basically have targets and I go, okay, if this gets to this figure or near about this figure, then I'm going to sell X amount of percent here. And then I'll just hold and see what happens. And, if it gets to the next position, then I'll just exit fully because I don't care, right, at that stage. And kind of have a rough idea on most tokens. Otherwise, I just kind of play it by feel and go, okay, I've been in this one for a while. I'm not really seeing much movement here. I'm already up. I'm just going to take 100% out and do it that way. Now, in doing this model, I'm never going broke, but I've obviously sold a lot of stuff that went on to 2 or 3x or even sometimes 10x from the point in which I sold it. But I think it's a better model because it keeps you in the game longer. Well, it's kept me in the game longer. And, there's such a thing as having too much money in a meme coin as well, right? There's other factors like if I have so much in a coin that I can't sleep at night and I'm checking the charts, I just de-risk the position down to the point where I feel comfortable. Because if it's keeping you up and it's impacting your life, you have too much invested, right? And sometimes, if you're able to sell and then go and buy a car, like people think that, they go, oh, it's not worth it. I could ride this up to 7 figures or whatever. It's like, but if you're able to make a tangible change to your life by taking profit, like I don't think that in the long term you'd regret it, right? Like imagine you take profit, you go on a holiday, and then you're like, oh yeah, sure, I didn't get the 6-figure bag or 7-figure bag, but I was able to go over here and do this thing and experience this thing. And it's like you actually have some like experience from it and something pleasurable that you did outside of the industry. And I think that's really important for kind of resetting people's mentality around actually what money is for. It's to buy.
I mean, because it's like so true. Like I saw your tweet that you posted like maybe was it a few days ago, what you did for your family.
Yeah.
And I thought like, oh wow, no one talks about that. And I guess I only seen it from you for the first time, who said that, you know what, this is what I did for my family. And I'm like, oh, you know what, that is like so cool. That's the best way to say like, oh, you know what, crypto is not a scam.
Well, there's a lot of people who I see them and they make a lot of money, but they constantly, like, they don't have any plan for what they're going to do with it. And they win and they win and they win. And they're just not spending it on anything, or, I mean, they spend it on themselves, but like there's no plan to better their life or to better anybody else's life with it. I just think that's a pointless goal. But I think if your goal is to make money in the industry to, better your life and then to be able to better your friends and family's life. And I'm not talking about, you don't throw away all your money, but like, you help lift them up. And I think, well, because at the end of the day, it's like, if a percentage of those profits flows into them or flows into you doing interesting things that make you a better person, like if it all goes to zero, you have that stuff still, right? And it's very easy to get caught up in the thing of like buying fancy watches, fancy cars and fancy clothes and all this stuff. And like, yeah, cool. We all want to do some of those things because it's nice to have. But if that's your entire purpose and it's just built around kind of like the accumulation of kind of these assets that don't really have, like
intrinsic
value, outside of being like, something for clout and whatever, that you have to kind of, buy new ones every couple of years to stay relevant. If you're trying to do it that way, I think that's kind of like a bit of a shallow existence. So you need a greater purpose. But definitely, look, it is great to be able to take winnings from a coin and buy a new car, right? Because you're going to drive it all the time. You're going to get to experience it and stuff like that. But if that's the only pleasure that you can derive from being in the industry, I think you're here for the wrong purposes.
Yeah, I mean, like it's same with TradFi, right? What's the point of you being the richest person in the cemetery, right? It's the same thing, right? Wherever we go, I think like some people you're gonna say something, Charlie. All right, you go ahead.
Should get built in the pyramids and a
but it's not for you though.
No, that's actually a funny meme I said I seen years ago of like, it doesn't matter when you die, and then down at the bottom it's like this guy that's buried underneath the pyramid. But yeah, you're right, Cuzzy. It's like, and I think the generations coming up now are more on wanting to build those memories than
experiences, rather than just
maybe have that nice house or something. Yeah. I'd rather be those nomads of trading nomads, digital nomads, where they can travel around, go different places, and enjoy that quality of life.
I think so. So I think we see, I guess what we hear in the what you call the social space is a lot about it's about pumping my bags or buying the Lambo and all that stuff. But there's a whole another demographics who's like really doing good with the crypto, really spreading that, sharing that wealth with others who are really in need, and I met someone who was, helping like in third world, developing countries, whether it's in Africa, in Asia, in South Asia, and and it's really cool to hear. And you're like, okay, they made money in the crypto and in in the TradFi as well. and they always share that their wealth around and up. And I was like, okay, look, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
They look after themselves, they look after their family, and then they extended that giving to their friends, and then to the family, friends, and then the people who really need it outside of circle. And he was explaining to me, like, first of all, you should look after yourself. You know, make sure your family is safe, and then your own family, and then your like wider family, and then your friends, and then out of that, okay, who else you can impact positively?
Yeah.
And I was like,
and
that's
it's
pretty
sped up. So like the thing is, like, obviously this is a whole podcast in itself, so we don't have to go specifically into it at the morals and ethic implications of earning profit and what you should do with it. But I do think that it speed runs people's life a little bit in that, look, let's say if you're, okay, for Australian audience, right? If you're a PYG kind of earner, right? You're at your job, you're getting a raise every year, you're earning this like income. It's coming slowly and over time, and ideally it's going up, right? But if you're in crypto, maybe you make a trade that earns a couple of years' salary in one day, right? Obviously, it didn't happen in a single day, but like, you realize profit on one day, and then, you made a couple of years' salary, or some people making 7-8 figures, right? They're able to basically take a huge chunk of time and cancel that out and have the money that they would have earned over that period of time. But it also then, if sometimes for some people, is not like they think that that's what they really wanted, and they get it, and they're just like, well, actually, okay, this goal that I thought all life was about just happened to me today, and now I have it, and I don't feel satisfied. And it's, because like money is not the end goal, but obviously having the ability to kind of go off and do this stuff is also really interesting. But I do think this is a kind of a topic in terms of like looking at the psychology of traders and like what do people do when they've made it, and I think that's an interesting subject. But it's going to be different for every person. But look, one of the problems with the industry is people making a lot of money and then becoming kind of assholes, and you see it, and they just speed run their kind of their arc to being kind of like villains of crypto. And I think honestly, like probably 90% of the space is like that, but then there's 10% of the space which is not really corrupted by money, and those are the kind of people that I'm looking to hang around with and have conversations with, because those are the ones that are going to build the solutions for the future based on blockchain. And I think we have to bring it back sometimes away from the hype and the hype cycles back to, okay, what are the fundamentals around the tech here? What are we fundamentally trying to do as a financial system? What are we trying to get away from? What are we trying to not replicate? And just keep bringing the conversation back to that, because if this becomes just the same as TradFi and the real world, then we've failed. From my perspective anyway.
Mate, you said it, you bang on. I mean, that's going to be an awesome clip for you, Nathan. Boots, like, this is the thing that I'm reading, in a lot of places, but I have to say, like, I have to be honest that I have not really looked into it. This popped up earlier when you say it's like left curve, right?
Yeah.
So what is left curve, mid curve, and right curve?
Okay. So this is a great term, by the way, that anyone can use outside of crypto and definitely use it within. But so it's the bell curve, right? So obviously in terms of the IQ bell curve, like the largest proportion of people on the bell curve are in the center, and then there's the far left and the far right. And the left is the lowest end of the IQ bell curve, so people who have a very low IQ. And then the right curve is people at the top of the bell curve, and that's people who have a very high IQ, right? So an example of this is that the reason people talk about this is because in this industry, the people that end up making the most money are the left curve people and the right curve people. And the people in the center keep failing because they have just enough critical analysis to look at something, but then also talk themselves out of it. Whereas the person who's on the left, they might see a ticker called Pepe and they go, that's a funny frog. And they'll just buy it, right? Yeah, frog is funny, let me buy. And they click buy, and they buy more than they can afford, but they buy it because it's funny. And they're like, I'm never selling this because some YouTuber talked about it and they're going to make me a millionaire, and they just hold it, right? And then you've got people on the right who are like, okay, Pepe is, it's one of the largest, mimetic, images in all of, internet history. Tons of VCs are interested in this since the death of vaporware tokens. Like, I think that market makers, these market makers are behind the token, here, listings on Binance, like they've done all the like they're big brain, writing up reports and like analyzing the math and the angles, and they do end up kind of doing the similar thing as the person on the left. But the people in the middle are like, oh, Pepe the Frog, that's a racist 4chan meme. It can't go up anymore. It's already gone up this. And then they just don't do anything. And so like you end up with this industry where like, I always tell people, I'm like, you know, you're probably mid curve, but what you can become is left curve. You're not going to don't try and become right curve, because if you're a right curve, you would know it, and we wouldn't be having the conversation, right? The right curve people, they're like, you know, they're dragging their huge brain around and whatever. And when you meet one of these people, you know them. But what we can do as the average person in the industry is go, okay, how do I turn my brain off? Okay, what would a left curve person do? I honestly, I think about this in trading, and this is what I was saying before, is like you buy and then you do the research, and then you just buy based on like, okay, this coin made me laugh. Click buy. Done. And then also like, this coin made me laugh. Like, I'm going to put this much in. Click buy. But don't think about the implications of like, oh, that's a whole month's rent or salary, or, you know, maybe I need to spend this on Uber. Like, you can't get into the critical analysis. You've just got to turn the brain off and click buy, because that's the only way that you can even the playing field versus the people who are on the right. And then you can form a thesis around it, but you've got to be critical of not being too like critically analyzing your trades into the ground, because you can go back and go, you can be clicking and looking at the charts and going, oh, the volume is down, you know, in comparison to this. And now I'm going to pull my money out. Maybe they're not tweeting enough, or the Telegram's gone quiet and stuff. And it's like, look, these are all symbols, like things that you can have as a trading strategy. But it's like, at the end of the day, only action stuff in which you have a plan to do so. Don't get emotionally reactive. Or the only time you should be reactive is if you get a piece of information that is demonstrating that what you're invested in is basically a rug, right? And then you can get out. But if it's if you've invested and you've made the decision, like and you buy, and then you go into a group chat and somebody talks about something and you're like, oh, okay, maybe they're right, and then you pull out of the trade, you'll just end up over trading and trading yourself into zero, because you're taking all these bits of advices from all these corners of the internet. And it's like, stick to the thesis that you have. And if the thesis that you have is like turning your brain off and just like committing to 72 hours or 96 hours of holding something without thinking about it and without looking at the charts based on the thesis that you form, just go with it and then come back. And if you're right, go, okay, that model of trading worked for me. If it was wrong, go, okay, let me dissect where that went wrong. Like, what were the things that I did wrong, and what were the things that occurred that was wrong? And okay, if it turned into a rug, or like, you know, if it just didn't take off as much, like then you go, okay, maybe I invested too much with this thesis. Next time I'm going to invest 25% of that because I'll feel more comfortable. And then if this still goes to zero based on that approach, I'm fine, right? Versus approaching each trade with a different strategy and chopping and changing and stuff like that. And look, it's really hard to get into that model. It comes with experience, but like at the end of the day, the best traders I know are the ones that just trust their gut and they buy stuff and they don't look at it. They just step away. And honestly, if you're in a bull market, that's a really effective way of trading. Just throwing some money at something and stepping away for a period of time and then coming back and checking.
Oh, mate, you explained that so good. Thank you.
And it's funny you bring up the Belgium, because you would have seen it before, because the meme. It's actually I have them really.
I have seen it, and you have seen it. You think this is what it is, but then you start thinking like your developer hat on, right? And your math's like, okay, and then you start reading into it too much, and then you're like, okay, I'm lost in my own thought now. I don't know where what is it? Because it's a culture that comes with it, right? And then because this whole the words only started like recently.
It's been a while, but I find I switch between them. Right curve on this one, left curve on this one. But on that,
the model. Sorry, keep going. Sorry, I didn't interrupt. Yeah.
Boots, do you watch much of Ivan on Tech?
I've watched some of his stuff. Yeah, I do find him pretty entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah, so like years ago, right, he was like real into the technicals. He was real right curve, as you would say, like technicals, fundamentals, developers. And then coming into this market, he's just throwing it all out the door and gone, no, just worry about the fundamentals, nothing else. Like the fundamentals. So he's changed, because like the 2018 to 2022 market bull run, that 4-year cycle, is he was on all the technicals and ignored Dogecoin and other meme coins, and then coming into this now 4-year cycle, he's like, nah, just buy all the memes, just worry about the fundamentals.
Oh my God. But then again, Boots, it has to work in, like, say, for example, when the early stages, I think I bought Pepe, I think maybe the third or fourth day that got released. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I guess the mentality should change as the road map or the history of the token. Do you think, like, now Pepe is like almost like a blue chip? Is it almost, or is it a blue chip meme coin now?
Yeah. So you can change your thesis along the way, and you should, right? But it's more so like, and this strategy is going to be different for different levels of market cap. The thing I'm talking about being left brain is like when it's a new token, right? That's when you turn the brain off and wait for the thesis to get formed. If we're saying, like, if someone was looking at like investing into tokens now, it's like, okay, well, you actually would go and do research and be like, okay, like, let's find the strongest community, like let's see which one of these has the strongest culture, which one do I think is going to go on which exchanges, and actually do some proper analysis. Because again, if a token's at $100 or $200 million market cap, it's less likely to go a 2x from that point than if it's at 1 million, right? If it's at 1 million, anything can happen. And like, this is the time where this is what I call in the trenches, like, sub 1 million or a million, like, you have to turn the brain off and not know what happens. But once it gets to like, and if you invest in that token, then it suddenly hits 200 million. Well, you could have a new thesis going, okay, well, the risk to return ratio for this token now, for me personally, is a lot less because I've already had a 200x in terms of return. And it's like, now I have 200x of risk on profit in this coin for the, that I'm holding there for the chance that I can get a 2x on this. Because again, that's driving the market cap from 200 million to 400 million, which is a huge increase, right?
Huge.
And so, like, in my opinion, from how I trade, I'm like, once it hits that like 100, 200, 300 million kind of marks for some of these tokens, like, and again, I would love it if this happened more, but it doesn't. It happens fairly. then I usually just exit 100% of my position and I go and form a new thesis, right? Because again, I've been in stuff like I was in MOG from like a couple of million up to 380 million, and then I sold. And sure, it went to 600 million the other day and whatever, but it's like, again, that's not really a huge increase from the point at which I exited, but I would be holding so much risk on in the asset that I just don't think it's worth it. Now, some people disagree with me. They go, okay, you should trade purely on the long-term thesis and be comfortable with the huge swings of the portfolio. You should see you should be comfortable seeing your portfolio nuke and then come back again. And that's a different class of trader than me because I can't personally do that. I just want to get in and get out. But again, if I entered into the trade at, say, 300 million, I would probably be way more comfortable with it dropping back to 150 because, again, I'm at that point, I'm guessing my research is based on a long-term thesis for the token as opposed to a quick flip. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, 100%, man. I think there's one person here. Both of us are talking, right? You, me, I'm talking. Boots, you are talking, but there's only one person who's taking notes. I can see Nathan just writing that stuff up. Hey, Nathan. Oh my God. So with the meme coins now, it was like really in the Ethereum ecosystem, and I would say in the last few months, it has pretty much most of them has moved on to the Solana ecosystem. And look, I used to be in the Ethereum and but what happened, like, now I was like, oh my God, if I put like $20, it cost me around about another $25 just on gas. And just I found like Solana, I'm like, oh, just chuck anything, just cost nothing. But then trying to sell something, like, oh, sorry, you can't do this because the network is too busy. So I'm like, okay, which way should I go, right? What's your take? What have you seen in the whole Ethereum and Solana? Because I'm not Ethereum maxi or Solana maxi. I'm looking at, okay, what is because for us, I mean, it's a tech. Is it good tech for this challenge? Okay, then it's like same thing that Microsoft versus Linux early days, right? I've been through that startup time. I'm not, look, let's focus on the challenge and what is the right solution, and then let's focus on solution, or not just build, okay, I'm this max, you're this max it, because you just don't know, right? Things changes, and it's good. We need believers, just like in the bell curve. You need the believers of this, you need the, okay, I'm like, you know what, I'm not into that. Either way it works, right? What is your take on this narrative?
Yeah. So I think you have to trade each chain in a different way, or chains that are fundamentally different from one another in different ways. So like, Ethereum mainnet obviously is expensive in terms of gas transactions, etc. So you can't be putting through lots of small trades because the profit is going to be eaten by the cost of doing the trade. And this influences people to sell less often and to put in larger amounts when they're trading on Ethereum. So like, it's much more common for people to put in like 1 or 2 Ethereum on a trade on Ethereum mainnet and walk away, because again, why would you pay $100 gas on $1,000 trade? Because you just lost 10%, right? And then when you sell, you're gonna lose whatever. So it's like that's where that differs. And also it's at a much slower speed because the volume of trades itself is way less on Ethereum than it is on something like Solana, even if the equivalent in terms of total dollars pumped through is the same volume, right? So like, I should say the number of transactions is different, right? Whereas on Solana, people are putting through like 50 cents, $10, $5, right? And you look at the Solana charts and they move like at insane speeds. And it's like, I treat trading on Solana, I look at a market cap of a coin on Solana, and then I go, okay, how would I trade this on Ethereum if it was 10x the value? So if it's a $1 million market cap on Solana, I treat it as if it was a $10 million market cap coin on Ethereum, and then go, okay, I'm already 3x up. If I was 3x up on a $10 million coin, I probably would take 25% some profit off the table, because it's pretty like, just taking a little bit here and there because I'm selling on the way up. But the size of where you do that on Solana is completely different in my opinion, because it's so fast. And that $1 million token could be 12,000 in an hour. That it just is ridiculous. So you have to trade them separate ways. And the same thing extends to kind of like the rune ecosystem, because with runes, like, there's no liquidity pool. You have to sell them like NFTs. So you basically,
that's right. Yes.
And also the amount of tokens that you sell, they're like pre-batched in the way that they're inscribed. So the only way to make them into smaller units is to like use a batching tool to break up the inscriptions, or to like send them to another wallet. But people don't bother because it's too expensive to do on Bitcoin. And they usually just list huge amounts of tokens. And then, then there can be like a race to the bottom where you list them at like $1,000 and some guy comes in at 9,999 because it's going to appear lower than you. And then this kind of like keeps, the term in NFTs was like bricking the floor, right? And if there's a lack of liquidity there, then you can't sell. So like, runes has to be traded in a different way, from my perspective anyway, in that you have to treat it. It's basically like selling NFTs. So like the Bitcoin ecosystem, you're selling the token and you're putting it for offers into volume. On Solana, it's like everything is 100x the speed of everywhere else because there's just so many transactions going through. So you have to be like, okay, in my opinion, commit to the trade and then not look at the charts, because the charts on Solana are very misrepresentative of what's going on. And then on Ethereum, or even to an extent Base, treat it as more of like, okay, larger transactions. And, Base is probably different because I guess Base is the Solana of Ethereum. But on Ethereum, I would say larger transactions are kind of like invest and step away. Base is probably 50% the speed of Solana. So like, because people can put through lots of transactions, but it tends to track in terms of trading similar to Ethereum in that the charts don't really nuke so quickly. And again, this is all to do with how many people are on there trading, how much volume is going through these kind of, like what tools are they using? Because I think prior to, I don't know if you guys know about Photon, the bot, which is it's like, I would say it's the best bot in the industry because it's a web browser bot, and it's also on mobile, but I don't trade on mobile as a rule because I don't want to trade when I'm outside. But it's got a really
dangerously, mate.
Yeah, it is. It's getting into the weeds too much, but it's got a really good interface, and it helps the average person become like a really quick and speedy trader. And I think like the advent of that has made people trade on Solana like much more because they don't have to trade through Telegram. And that's been a fundamental shift in the industry.
Are you planning to launch a blockchain project? At Blockstars, we specialize in developing blockchain projects from your initial idea to the final product. To launch your successful blockchain project, drop us an email to hello@blockstars.com.au. All right. That's cool. That's something new. Yeah, man, thank you so much for that insight. I just want to touch base a little bit on pump.fun. Like, you know, so that's a bit of a new thing. I mean, like, look, that's the beauty of this space, right? Like the friend tech, it's almost like, okay, I want to buy, you know, I want to sell my, you know, shares of my friends. I want to buy some piece of my friends, you know, like people just find stuff and then bring to crypto, and it just like almost like takes from 1 to, you know, 100x over a matter of, you know, hours or days. In the real world, it might take like weeks or months. You know, they're happy if it happens in months, right? But here, we expect things to move so fast. And so can you please tell us a little bit about this? What happens at this one? Why is it everyone talking about this tool? And what is your experience using it?
With pump.fun? I mean,
yes.
I think that, look, most people are talking about it because it's a way for anybody to launch a token, right? So previously, look, there was a lot of people at the start of this year, like when the meme coin craze kicked off, they were like, how do I launch a token? Everybody was saying that because they all wanted to get rich launching a token. And there are, you know, you used to have to just get a dev to go and do, like, to launch this thing for you. And like, a lot of these devs are kind of dodgy, and like they would end up like keeping all the money, and like you don't know how much they sniped at the supply because they had the early contract address, and it just was a nightmare. So pump.fun obviously like emerged as a need to solve that kind of friction point of like people wanting to launch tokens but not being able to, and kind of that gave people a lot of creativity to kind of like launch, you know, heaps and heaps of tokens without having the friction of having to use a dev. Now from an industry perspective, like it's been good and bad because it's allowed for kind of like community run or community driven tokens to take off from nothing with very low friction and cost. But then it's also allowed people to consistently rug the industry and keep sucking liquidity out of it. Because the way that these launches are done is like, you know, people will throw up the token on pump.fun and then they'll just sit back with 10 or 20 wallets and just accumulate a huge amount of the supply, right? And then, you know, then start promoting the project. And then, you know, if it gets out of pump.fun, because pump.fun has like virtual liquidity, which is not real, and like you can keep trading on there, but if it hits a certain threshold, it goes on to Radium, and you know, it's like it becomes a proper token, it's launched, etc. And so they'll spend a lot of time accumulating supply at that point, and then when it goes, you know, out of pump.fun, well, these people have like 30% of the supply, so it's very hard to get those coins over a certain market cap, right? Now there's people who intentionally accumulate that amount of supply to let it go high and keep the floor stable and things like, not floor, keep the FTV stable or the market cap stable and stuff like that. And then there's other people who just basically accumulate a heap of supply, and before it even goes live, they just dump it all on you while it's still on pump.fun. So I'd say it's a bit of a minefield, but, and you have to treat it as if like, you have to treat a pump.fun token differently because it's just much more risky. Whereas like if it was a fair launch, okay, and the fair launch is in quotation marks here because there's never a fair launch, but right? But like at least at that stage, the people who get the early token, they have to snipe the token supply, and you can see that on chain as to like which wallet sniped which amount. And you know, it's much more technically proficient to kind of do that. And the people that are sniping these huge supplies at the start of token launches, they can destroy a coin, but usually they want it to go quite high, so they sell it slowly over time. Like they're more disciplined than say the average pump.fun dev who might take 8% supply for themselves and dump it on you when the coin is at 50k market cap. Right? Like they're looking for $200 as opposed to
that's it. Exactly. Yeah.
But I would say for the average consumer in the space, stay away from it because it's a speed run to zero very quickly.
That's the easiest way to lose money. I mean, like, look, again, like, you know, someone who's investing in stocks would say the same thing to us, like, hey, don't buy crypto, it's going to go to zero. I mean, like, it's your risk profile, right?
Don't buy penny stocks.
Penny stocks. You know? and it's weird. It's like, how much risk and you want to be like, it's about, long time ago, when in forex trading, I was told, like, if you want to be a really good trader, the people who are really good in trading are pilots, because they are so used to working for a system, and they don't work based on emotion. They don't like, oh my God, I had to turn this on, turn that on, or the playing like, okay, I had to turn, they just go through a bit of a process, like a manual, like they always stick to a framework, so that if a trade goes bad or good or whatever, they always stick to the technicalities and, okay, did you get the right news and things like that. So they go through a bit of a process to get through the trading. And I think there will be certain signals like that in the crypto world, like what you said, Boots, that you look out for, and not getting too emotional about it, but really stick to, okay, this is your this is your plan, this is what it is, and then let's go in with that one. So
yeah. And look, my overall advice, again, not financial advice, obviously, I just say to people, don't trade, because the average person shouldn't trade, because or the average person, if they're going to be trading, should look at how do they form a thesis on what they're entering into and trading based on that, as opposed to trying to trade on volume and get into the pump.fun trenches and buying every new coin at 500k market cap, because they're just going to lose all their money, right? And like, there's people that excel in that kind of stuff, and there's people that which is like a very small minority, and most people don't, right? So like the most people making their money in this industry by going, okay, I'm a firm believer in this token because it's got a great community, it's got a great culture, like I think the meme is funny, and they put money in it, and then like, if that thesis is correct, then over time, quote unquote conviction plays play out, and they end up making a lot of money, or not a lot of money, but some money, versus chasing the hot new thing. And like chasing trades is a really bad model. So like, if anybody new was entering this space, I would say, hey, don't even put any money into any pump.fun coins. Don't buy anything under a certain amount of market cap. Sit back and look at the market and go, okay, let me just trade on paper. Let me pick out a couple of tokens that I think are interesting, and let me write down my reason as to why, and then check back in a week and see if that thesis played out, right? And then after you've done a little bit of that, of theoretically trading, go, okay, what tools do I need to kind of upskill my trading? Where can I learn more information about how to trade? Who are some influential people in the space which I think have good information, right? What are some other ways that I can upskill what I'm doing in order to be better? And doing that over time is going to make you a better trader. And even stuff like going, okay, I just made a trade, I lost 50% of that. Let's analyze why I lost, right? What did I do wrong here? Where did I misplace my thesis? What was wrong with my analysis, right? And then deconstructing that after. And then even maybe coming to the conclusion, okay, I've been trading too much, let me take a week off trading and come back and doing that. Because most people don't do this. They come into they're coming from the NFT scene, where it was really slow and easy and anyone could kind of do it, into this super high paced 24/7 kind of trading environment where, things can just go to zero instantly, and there can be any manner of kind of pitfalls. And they're coming into it and they're just spending all their time in it, and they're not learning, and they're just throwing more and more and more money into the casino until they lose it all. And I know plenty of people like that. They're just not able to kind of get out off the ground. But as you said, it's the best traders are the people like pilots, because they can deal with tons of stress and they operate on a system and they don't let emotions get in the way. And, imagine this. I would consider trading meme coins at certain levels, trading meme coins on Solana is kind of trying to fly 2 F-32s or something like that, right? Because it's there's so much to navigate, and there's so many variables and things like that, that you just have to be a certain type of person. And I think that honestly, if we really pull it back, if we're being really critical and analyzing the industry, that this space is not for most people. And even people in the space, it's still hard for them to keep track of what's going on at that very kind of we'll call it the influx point of where all the new stuff is coming out and all the new things are happening. And I don't think you can even keep track of that stuff alone. So for the average person, you should be doing less and learning more. And for the person who's kind of at the pinnacle of their trading, career, I think should be helping teach people how to not get wrecked and not hoarding all of the information for themselves. Because at the end of the day, it's a system, and it requires new market participants. And those new market participants can be people who already exist here, who have liquidity on the sidelines, or that could be people outside of the industry. But you need to help them bring their money into the ecosystem in a way that isn't you just extracting value from them. Because if you do, at a certain point, those people run out, and then there's no more profit to be had because the industry kind of failed because nobody's buying meme coins anymore because everybody's broke, right? And it's like, yeah, sure, the very, very top echelon of people will make a lot of money that way, but most people aren't the top echelon. And, like I'm talking at this from the person who's somewhere in the middle. Yeah, if I'm somewhere in the middle, and I want the people below me to make money, because if they make money, I probably am going to make more money. And I know that it flows up the chain, but if the chain breaks down, I don't want to become the bottom of the chain. So like, I want to help people learn and in as best a way to like empower them to actually make money in the industry in a kind of a safe manner, but also like understand like, whether or not they can actually be involved in this space. Because again, as a lot of people have been around since last cycle, and like I look at them and I hear what they're saying, and I just think they should pick a new career, like, to be honest.
So true. We are getting like very close to the end of our time slot, and just before we finish, I just want to ask the one question. I was going to say a simple question, but I don't know this is a simple question. What is the difference between a shit coin and a meme coin?
They're the same thing. It's just, I think people don't want to say shitcoin on the algorithm on Twitter because the algorithm could punish you for swearing or something. So people say meme coin because it's more digestible than shitcoin, but they are shitcoins. They're all shitcoins.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Okay, Doc. I don't have any more questions. What about you, Charlie?
Nah, I'm good. Been good, Boots.
Yeah,
this is a good session, man.
This is really good. Yeah, this is good. And also, we just want to reiterate, like, look, here what we're talking about is just a general thesis, what we as individuals are doing, like really learn from different people, right? This is like just for education, and we are not saying, okay, this is what you should do. And, we are technical people here. And what we're talking about is all about our experience and how we can use this knowledge, especially when we are talking to other people who are, if we are onboarding, who are not crypto natives into crypto world, if they come to do our projects, or if they say like, okay, we want to introduce a token, we want to create a meme token, you know what I mean? Like, and we're like trying to stay away from that, because some of these clients, when they come to us, they just don't understand. It's like, oh, I can just create tokens and then just sell it and make money and be rich. They don't understand the other side of it, which is the legal side, the legal aspect of getting involved or creating your own tokens and going ahead. So what we want to do is we want to encourage people to take on this technology, but onboard them with safety, making sure that they are safe and everyone is safe in the ecosystem. So I think that has to be said. And Boots, you have been really good in this space, my friend, and you have been really educating people around the deck, and you've been talking a lot about on Twitter and sharing your knowledge, which is like amazing. And I would like to give you the mic to, if you have any, if you got any shout outs to anyone that you value their opinion and their take on in the crypto thesis. So off you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just say, like, again, my advice to people here from an educational perspective is don't invest in meme coins, because it is the riskiest asset class in the industry to get involved in. If you do choose to invest in meme coins, you should understand the industry and know who the main players are, and do a lot of education and research first, and then, start very small, right? Again, this is all hypothetical and you do what you want to do, but the advice to most people is just don't get involved, because I just don't think it's worth their time. And I think it's a very unsafe kind of asset class to be involved in. The people that I would specifically look to for advice on what to do, or educational content on around kind of the meme coin industry on Twitter, is probably, I would say, no one, because there's a lot of ulterior motives on the timeline, and you don't know, who's holding what, unless they're openly disclosing what tokens they hold and, what their thesis around those is. I would stand clear of like looking at advice for that, like around that specifically. I would probably look at people talking about overall market trends and like overall theses, or theses specifically regarding like why a broad, bundle of things will trend upwards, and why that may trend downwards, right? Broadly, like a thesis that's more of like a holistic overview versus specifically talking about a single token. And the best way to kind of get information around this stuff is generally through speaking with people in group chats who are, trading day in, day out, and having conversations around, with them around, okay, I'm buying this. Are you going to buy this? Like, I think this is a good trade because of these reasons. What do you think? And then getting some feedback and stuff like that. Doing it with friends and collectively entering into it, because there's kind of a quote that Mr. Beast says, which I think is really, really relevant. He's like, if one person is trying to learn a new craft, they can sit there and, they're going to do something, they're going to make a mistake. And then once they made the mistake, they're going to analyze it, look at it and go and correct it. And then they keep going. But if 4 people or 5 people are all together and they're all involved in the same thing, and, person A makes mistake B and person 1 makes mistake B and person 5 makes mistake Z or whatever. And then they come back to the table and each one of them has a different set of mistakes that they've made. And they talk about the mistakes that they've made. Those 5 people then have 5 collective, experiences to learn on. And they're going to get ahead of the other person who's trying to go solo much more quickly. So as much as people say that the space is PvP, I think that's a little bit of a naive vision on how to be kind of win-win in terms of game theory. So yeah, I guess the long and short of it is be curious and form your own thesis and form a peer group in which you can learn from.
Awesome. Yeah. On that note, Bert, thank you so much for giving your valuable time to attend this podcast and sharing your knowledge with the Web3 community. And as always, Mike, we are great supporters of you, and live long and prosper.
This is great, man. Thank you.
Catch you later. See ya.